is other people? It's a phrase that I've always associated with Shakespeare rather than Sartre, but that is my own misattribution because Shakespeare's phrase is, hell is empty and all the devils are here. Shakespeare's phrase is more severe. It's talking about evil acts and deeds, and it is true that I sometimes feel Shakespeare's vibe, especially when we look at all the horrible things that are happening in the world right now. I understand why he says all the devils are here. But hell is other people. I think it kind of feels less severe. It's a bit tamer. At least that's how I read it. Hell is other people is listening to your brother-in-law drone on and on about a sports car that you couldn't care less about, but you can't leave and you don't want to stop him because you're at a family function and it would be rude. Hell is other people is the comments under that political post that you know you shouldn't respond to, but you do it anyway against your better judgment. And 3 hours later, you're still arguing with this complete stranger who, even though you never met him, seems to know how to push all of your buttons. Hell is other people is my own experience working retail at Christmas. I don't think I need to say anything more than that. So the phrase, hell is other people, it's less about encountering evil in the world and more about being inconvenienced. It's about being annoyed, irritated. And it can make you want to retreat from relationships and interactions, make you want to curl up with a blanket and a hot chocolate and try to shut out the world. And as an introvert, I get that. I get wanting to be alone with your thoughts and TV shows and cats rather than the mess of human interactions. I was just talking this week with my friend who is a yoga instructor. I was finishing up a class and she was coming in and we were chatting. And one of the things she said was this is perfect for what I'm thinking about for this sermon. She told me that when she goes to a gas station and the pump says, "See attendant," she just leaves. Now, Lauren Berlant is a social theorist who's made a big impact on the way that I see the world. And the last book that they wrote before they died is called On the Inconvenience of Other People. And the thesis is that we often view people as frustrating our efforts to achieve some personal goal or end. Like if I want to make money for my business, the customers and employees are objects on my way to doing that. If I am driving to work and I encounter a car crash, that is a human-caused event that prevents me from arriving on time and therefore frustrates my goals. If I'm at a grocery store and the person in front of me is writing a check, I can't tell you how much that I get irrationally irritated by that, and I apologize to anybody who writes checks at the grocery store. That person is inconveniencing me and impeding my efforts to get home and watch the newest true crime documentary. These people and situations, they inconvenience us. Now, Berlant defines inconvenience as the affective sense of familiar friction of being in relationship. At a minimum, inconvenience is the force that makes one shift a little bit while processing the world. That's their definition of inconvenience. And it is such a micro thing to pay attention to. It's so small in comparison with the big things that we notice, because inconvenience is all about these ephemeral interactions that we could easily fail to notice. It's a glance, a touch, a word, a gaze that makes one readjust their daily trajectory. But it's each of these small things that cause us to change, to rearrange our lives, and eventually, possibly, to grow. In this view, inconvenience isn't the obstacle, it's rather the point. It feels right to me, but it also seems to lack some texture, some concreteness. And there is a poet that I know who might be able to help us here. This poem is called Gate A4 by Naomi Shihab Nye, and I'm going to ask Will to help me read this poem. Wandering around the Albuquerque airport terminal after learning my flight has been delayed for 4 hours, I heard an announcement. If anyone in the vicinity of Gate A4 understands any Arabic, please come to the gate immediately.
Well, one pauses these days. Gate A4 was my own gate, and I went there.
An older woman in full traditional Palestinian embroidered dress, just like my grandma wore, was crumpled on the floor wailing, "Help, help," she said. And the flight attendant told me, "Will you talk to her? What is her problem? We told her her flight was going to be late, and she did this."
I stooped to put my arm around the woman and spoke haltingly. Shudoa shubiduk habibti? Stani shwe min fadlik shubitsi we?
The minute she heard any words that she knew, however poorly used, however poorly pronounced, she stopped crying. And she thought the flight had been canceled entirely, and she needed to be in El Paso for a major medical treatment the next day. And I said, "No, we're fine. You'll get there just later. Who is picking you up? Let's call him."
We called her son. I spoke with him in English, and I told him I would stay with his mother till we got on the plane and ride next to her. She talked to him, and then we called her other sons just for the fun of it. Then we called my dad, and he and she spoke for a while in Arabic and found out, of course, that they had 10 shared friends. Then I thought, just for the heck of it, why not call some Palestinian poets I know and let them chat with her? This all took up 2 hours.
She was laughing a lot by then, telling of her life, patting my knee, answering questions. She had pulled out a sack of mamoul cookies, little powdered sugar crumbly mounds stuffed with dates and nuts from her bag, and was offering them to the women at the gate. And to my amazement, not a single woman declined one. It was like a sacrament. The traveler from Argentina, the mom from California, the lovely woman from Laredo. We were all covered with the same powdered sugar and smiling. There was no better cookie.
And then the airline broke out free apple juice from huge coolers, and 2 little girls from our flight ran around serving it, and they were covered with powdered sugar too. And I noticed my new best friend. By now, we were holding hands, had a potted plant poking from her bag. Some medicinal thing with green furry leaves. Such an old country tradition. Always carry a plant. Always stay rooted to somewhere.
And I looked around the gate of late and weary ones, and I thought, this is the world that I want to live in. The shared world. Not a single person in that gate, once the crying of confusion stopped, seemed apprehensive about any other person. They took the cookies, and I wanted to hug all of these other women too.
This can still happen anywhere. Not everything is lost.
Thank you, Will. I almost feel like we need to give that poem a few seconds to breathe. It's so beautiful. I think it captures something that is beautiful and true. I think it captures the truth of this meaning of the inconvenience of other people and how those inconveniences can lead to a deeper opening within ourselves. There is, of course, in this account all of the hells, the hell of encountering other people at an airport, the hell of a late flight, the hell of seeing someone you don't know being emotionally messy and you needing to find the right words. the hell of stumbling over a language that you barely speak. But then there's also this, an exquisite opening to compassion, to connection, to shared humanity, to meaning. And isn't that the point? I mean, what else are we here for except to learn to be more compassionate and connected and to appreciate our shared humanity and to find meaning in it? And if that's true, then it would mean that the very thing that we thought was the obstacle is actually the point. The thing that frustrates us is the very thing that gives us meaning and gives life substance. What would it look like to live in a culture or a group that finds meaning in this way? Lauren Berlant has a word for this, and it's a word that I thought was going to mean something very different when I first heard it, so we'll see what you think. Her word for this is heterotopia. Yeah, I had to do a double take on this word. But Lauren Berlant says that heterotopia means the place of difference. Hetero, different, topia, place. The place of difference. It is a place that values all of the differences and complexities and challenge and the friction that is caused when those things rub together. And they say that that is exactly what gives life its meaning. And we can choose to live in a place, in groups, in a culture, in a society that values that kind of friction. And we know that it will frustrate us. We know it will inconvenience us, but we also know that it will change us. We can desire that anyway because we know that those differences are going to give life purpose. I would venture to say that this strikes at the heart of Unitarianism. At our best, we have tried to make our congregations heterotopias in the midst of a world that often hates and denies difference. Our tradition doesn't rely on a creed. It doesn't rely on a shared belief system, but rather on the decision to journey together with a group of people whose differences may be inconvenient, but we know that in the end, they will give our life meaning. Unitarianism is the decision to be inconvenienced by other theologies, because those help us think deeper about our own. Unitarianism is the decision to be inconvenienced by other people's identities and to learn how to change our behaviors so that we become better, kinder, and more compassionate people. Unitarianism is the decision to be inconvenienced by other people's experience, knowing that when we learn from those, our perspective of the world will open like the aperture on a camera and bring in a wider perspective. And isn't that unexpected? Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that exactly what we wanted from life? Isn't it possible to say thank you, thank you, thank you for all of those inconveniences that are around us? My spiritual companions, I hope that your hands get covered in powdered sugar. Amen.